Hey everybody, it's me, Andy.
And I'm Sean.
And this is the Commander's Brew.
This week, kicking it with Hallar.
Hey everyone, welcome to episode 150 of the Commander's Brew.
Oh man, 6 quarters.
We did it. We're 6 quarters in.
6 gumballs deep.
Yep. Do we have some special things planned for the 150th anniversary of the Commander's Brew?
No.
No.
This is a regular episode.
This is a regular episode. As you can probably tell by my voice, my allergies are going pretty nuts today, so there's that.
I mean, it's regular in the sense that, like, everything is special, right? So, like, this is as special as everything else. We put the same amount of TLC into this one as we do all the other ones. It's still brought to you by the generous TLC of all of our patrons, by the generous sleeves and boxes of Ultimate Guard, and by the generous TLC support of the Wizard Tower, wizardtower.com.
Here's an ad from them now.
You're familiar with Luminous Bonds, Common Bond, Fast Bond, Polluted Bonds, Sanguine Bond, Spirit Bonds. Now get ready for other cards you're familiar with: Arc Bond, Contaminated Bond, Broken Bond, Common Bond. And now get ready for the money kind of a bond: James Bond, Hamish Bond, rower from New Zealand, the bond between a parent and a child. And now get ready for singles at the Wizard's Tower, wizardtower.com. Get $15 in singles, get them shipped for free to Canada. Use coupon code Summer of Brews for an additional 5% off, and you'll always get 3% kickback on your next order. And now get ready for the end of the ad.
Yes.
Yeah.
Great stuff there from them. Yeah, and secret agents are my favorite.
I mean, sure. I guess the secret agent reference was in there somewhere. It's just there's just so many. There's just so. It's obvious that's where we're going with this one, but there's just so many cards with the word Bond in it. It's weird to make a battle bond.
Yeah, I suppose. Yes, great. Well, that one really.
James Bond is the secret agent you were referring to.
Yes, of course, James Bond, right? Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, it wasn't a secret agent themed ad, of course.
Oh no, that was just a tiny part of it, as you pointed out.
Exactly, as I pointed out, because I definitely knew it. I definitely heard it. All right. Well, here we are, everyone, and it's episode 150, and we have done this show 149 times before this.
Yeah.
And
that's a lot.
That's a lot. Yeah. Thanks for listening. Thank you for being here today, even if this is your first episode. Thanks for being here. Thanks for listening.
Oh, wow. If this is your first episode, what a monumental, ordinary first episode.
Yeah. What a true benchmark of an episode.
It'll be easy to remember, right? When did you start listening? 150?
150. That's the episode where they just did a normal show? Yes, that's the one.
I remember what episode I started listening to Command Zone on.
Oh, what's that?
4.
Ooh. Do you remember what the thing was?
I think it was you and Brendo.
Really? Were we that early?
Were you that early, or did I just know? I forget the details of it, but I think as 4, and then you were on it. Either I knew you were going to be on it, or you were already, and I was just listening to catch you.
Right. It must have been later than 4. Had to be.
Maybe.
It was the Xenagod episode.
Yeah. I gotta look that up now.
Because I was listening to them for a little while before we got to be on the show, so.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Maybe I messed it up. I don't know. Maybe you told me about that.
But not that long, though. But I think longer than 3 weeks, for sure. Anyways,
yeah.
I don't remember what episode I started listening to those guys on. I remember what episode I started listening to Commander in on.
What episode?
1.
Wow.
Episode number 1. That's right.
1.
Well, I was listening to Phil's previous podcast, and then I heard him on Command Zone talk about his new one. So then I was like, okay, well, I'm in. Let's go.
Yeah.
So episode
the
number
transition.
1. Yeah, the transition. I was there. I was there live.
I'm curious. Tweet at us if you were here listening from to our podcast from episode 1. Very curious to see who was on the ground floor.
Riku.
Who's still listening?
Riku Suave. Back when we could fit Riku into a budget deck. Yeah.
Those are the days.
After all those,
Riku was cheap.
What's your favorite deck that you've built on this show?
That we ever did?
Yeah.
Oh, on the spot. We never even planned
I know, we didn't even plan this. This is not really like a big anniversary episode, but 150 is a bit of a milestone. We can take a second and do this.
Now, I feel like I'm just going to go with my gut here.
Yeah. Because this was very on the spot.
Yeah, my favorite episode. Oh, boy. I think my favorite deck. Did you say our favorite episode?
Favorite deck.
Oh, okay. That's a different answer.
Yeah.
My favorite. Oh, this is so hard, Andy. I think it's going to be one that's like recently on my mind. We're prepping for GP Vegas, so I'm trying to get some decks together to bring to that. Mm-hmm. But I think one of my favorite decks is... Oh, Andy, I can't. It's too hard.
It's got to be one you built in real life, right?
It's gotta be. Maybe the Neheb one.
Yeah, right. Okay. So like definitely one of my favorites is obviously Epic Experiment.
Oh, yeah.
One of the marquee decks that we've built on this podcast. The Brea Hellkite Tyrant one. And most recently, very much in the running, is the Rubinia Soul Singer Helm of the Host deck.
Oh, yeah.
Which I think I might put together for Vegas.
I don't have it in real life, but I still think, I can't even remember this commander's name. It's the Dorks Tribal one. Do you remember the blue-green one where it's all about a bunch of dorks? What's the name of that commander that has Tishana, the amount of power and toughness equal to the cards in your hand?
Yeah. No. You did Prime Speaker Zagana, not Tishana. Right?
Didn't I?
Tishana.
No, I did Tishana. It was all about this.
No, you're right.
When she enters the battlefield,
it's Tishana. Yeah. Voice of Thunder. That's it. Yep. Confirmed.
Okay. So that's my favorite deck that I think I have yet to brew in real life.
Oh, yet to brew. That's a good one. I don't know. I think the one my favorite deck I've yet to brew is Mogus, God of whatever, Slaughter.
Oh, wow. The old
Valentine's Day one.
Yeah.
That I'm like afraid to build in real life because it's so like gung ho about damaging everyone as quickly as possible and doing as much damage. I feel like it just paints a huge target if you play it.
I mean, it might work.
It's definitely one of the ones that would be good for a fast game, right?
Yeah, right. My favorite episode, not deck, is Screaming Bald Guys.
I still like
that was so funny.
Babes versus Hunks.
Oh, yeah. What's that, like 3?
That was 3? Very early. Yeah, very early.
We should do another, like, silly... We're overdue for a really silly episode.
We are, yeah. I think so, too.
To be honest, I'll give you a little behind-the-scenes, listeners. The silly ones are harder to produce than the serious ones because you have to it's so time-consuming to look at all the card art for Screaming Bald Guys or Hunks or Babes.
Yeah.
It's easy to look up +1/+1 counters. There's many websites that help us do that, but it's hard to find.
There's no art search with tags based on like
in the picture.
Is this guy bald? Is he screaming?
Yeah.
Could I consider this a scream, but he's clearly not screaming, but could he be about to be screaming?
Yeah, like this guy clearly has had his mouth removed.
Yeah.
But
he would be screaming at this point.
Oh, and then the discussion on skeletons. Like, are skeletons screaming when their mouths are open? Can they scream? What if I'm already... that episode tickles me. That's so funny. Go back and listen to Screaming Bald Guys if you would like that's for sure a best of.
That's definitely a best of, yeah. That's a hit. That's a greatest hit.
A great hit.
Speaking of a future greatest hit... It's Hallar the Firefletcher.
Oh, yeah, Hallar. So that's what this week's deck is. It's Hallar the Firefletcher. We're going to Yeah. This is an interesting deck. This is a commander from Dominaria. It's uncommon. Let's read the card. Hallar the Firefletcher. 1 red-green legendary elf archer 3/3 with trample. Whenever you cast a spell, if that spell was kicked, put a +1/+1 counter on Hallar the Firefletcher. Then Hallar deals damage equal to the number of +1/+1 counters on it to each opponent. So each opponent, we love that in multiplayer commander. So you would think the plan is to just fill the deck with as many kicker spells as you can, and then just kick your opponents out into oblivion.
Just kick
because
it.
Since kicking it with Hallar, because as you can tell, like as the +1/+1 counters grow, every spell does like more and more damage, right? First spell does 1 to everybody. Your next spell does 2 to everybody. That's a cumulative 3. The next spell brings the total to 6. The next spell brings the total to 10. So it doesn't take that long until you get it to the point where you're able to just do full kills.
Right.
Yeah.
But that's not what you got going on here.
Well, see, this is where it's different, right? I thought about just putting as many kicker spells in as possible, but that doesn't work well because a lot of kicker spells are underpowered.
Right.
So a lot of what this deck is doing is let's just add +1/+1 counters generally. And then, so once we load up Hallar with a ton of +1/+1s, we only need to cast a couple kicker spells to finish out our opponents. Not to mention Hallar has trample, so when we Voltron it up a lot, we're just able to kind of trample through and do a kill that way in some ways.
Right.
It doesn't care if Hallar is tapped or untapped to do that ability.
Right, of course.
Before we go too deep, I want to just highlight what kicker is. Kicker is an additional cost on a spell. So if anything puts a spell onto the stack in a cheaty way, you do have the option of paying the additional cost if you want to. You must pay like something to count it as kicker. You can't not pay, like if you don't pay the kicker cost, it does not count as kicked. But multi-kicker and kicker are the same things for the rules. Like if it's a multi-kicker, that just means kicked more than once.
Yeah, that spell has been kicked.
Yes, that counts for Hallar.
Right. Just the once, obviously, though, right? Like
just
if
the
you
once.
kick
yeah.
it 3 or 4 times, that doesn't add more.
Right. It would have to say whenever each time you
Yes.
kick a spell.
Right, yes.
But it just says whenever you cast a spell, if it was kicked, that's a simple yes or no check.
Right. Much simpler than the stupid coin flipping thing from last time, which I never want to talk about again.
Yeah. There's some discussion on it on our YouTube.
I know.
I've
seen it.
It's fascinating.
Yeah.
It's fascinating. But that's not for this. So in general, though, yes, this is true. So we're not going to jam it with every kicker spell that we can. A lot of underpowered creatures that way that cost way too much. But there's a lot of opportunities where we can substitute typical commander staples with spells with kicker that are a little bit less efficient, but I think that's a fair price to pay to get that bonus for Hallar. So let's go into some of those. One of the first ones I want to talk about is Overload. You got to destroy artifacts. So Overload is a 1 mana instant that destroys target artifact if its converted mana cost is 2 or less. But then if this spell was kicked for an additional 2, destroy that artifact if its converted mana cost is 5 or less instead. So you get to pay 3 mana to destroy any artifact cost 5 or less, or just a single red if in an emergency you need to pop in and just destroy a Sol Ring or like a little utility artifact. So this is a card that we want anyway, but we have a kicker version that seems reasonably priced.
From Invasion Overload.
Yeah.
The only printing of that card.
Yeah.
Interesting. Next we have Primal Growth. 2 and a green for a sorcery that says search your library for a basic land card, put that card in your battlefield, then shuffle your library. And as kicker, sacrifice a creature. And then if Primal Growth was kicked, instead search your library for up to 2 basic land cards, put them into the battlefield, then shuffle your library. This card's pretty good just in general, especially if you're running something like green-black or anything that cares about sacrificing.
Sure. And I'll tell you, it feels really good to sack like one of those little elves that puts a land on the battlefield anyway, and then sack it and get 2 more from it. And then again, what I would like to point out, this is a kicker spell where the kicker doesn't actually cost any more mana.
Right.
So you can kick this spell. So Overload can be kicked for 3, and this spell can also be kicked for 3.
Sweet.
Plus a creature.
Yeah, I love Primal Growth. So good.
Yeah, not bad. I want to talk about Grow from the Ashes. Great card from Dominaria. We all know it. 2 and a green for a sorcery. Kicker of 2. You can either search for a basic and put it into the battlefield untapped, or if you've paid the total 5, you can put 2 basics into the battlefield untapped. So what this does is, I mean, it does cost 5 to kick it, but you get 2 of it back. So in a sense, in the late game, when you're trying to go off with Hallar, this is sort of a 3 mana kicker spell. Mm-hmm. You just have to cast this one first, though.
Yeah, you just have to be able to actually use the lands that you went and got to cast something.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. Presumably you've got a handful of a few things, but that's just good ramp anyway, right? Like we want to ramp anyway because we got a lot of spells in our hand that need a lot of mana.
Yeah, kicker probably requires mana most of the time, so
yes, most of the time.
Good to ramp right into it. Yeah. Next we have Sentinel Wood Readers, 2 and a green for a 1/4 human druid with kicker for 2 and a green. When Sentinel Wood Readers enters the battlefield, if it was kicked, draw 2 cards. So you pay 6 to get a 1/4 and draw 2 cards.
Not the best deal in the world, but Harmonize in green is 2 green 2, so 4 mana for 2 cards, and now you're just paying 2 more to get a 1/4 body with it.
I think Harmonize you get to draw 3 cards.
You get to 3? Well, then I'm wrong. Then this is not so good. But anyway, it's one of those cards where we get to it's a utility that we need in Commander. We need to draw cards, and here's a way to do it with kicker. It's not as good, but it's something, and we'll take it.
Yeah, Harmonize, draw 3 cards for 4. Pretty sweet.
Oh man, in my brain it's always been 2 cards.
Oh no, yeah.
Harmonize is great.
Harmonize is great. Yeah. What's this next one here?
Oh, this is Mold Shambler. So we all know Acidic Slime, right?
Mm-hmm.
This is kind of like slightly worse, but we get a kicker, Acidic Slime. This is 3 and a green for a 3/3 Fungus Beast. However, if we pay the kicker of 1 and a green, making the total 6, when Mold Shambler enters the battlefield, if it was kicked, destroy target non-creature permanent. That's Acidic Slime's ability. For 1 additional total mana. You don't get a Death Touch body behind, which is significant, right? Having Death Touch deters attackers a lot. Yeah. A 3/3 won't deter a lot. But again, for that 1 extra mana and a little bit of less utility, it's pretty good with Hallar because we're going to turn that into some major damage.
Yeah, and it doesn't have the ETB,
that's true.
Like blinked or something like that. It won't do anything. But
that's true.
For the purposes of this deck, of course, we're looking for kicker, so we're fine with that. Next we have Goblin Ruin Blaster, 2 and a red for a 2/1 with kicker 1 red, like just a red. It's a 2/1 with haste, and it says when he enters the battlefield, if it was kicked, destroy target non-basic land. That's not bad.
Yeah. It's not bad, right? Especially now that Ixalan came around. We've got a lot of artifacts and enchantments that turn into lands. Like there's way more utility lands going around these days because of that. There's the new guy's Cradle, that new Maze of Ith, all kinds of stuff like that. Destroying targeted land destruction is going up in value a lot.
Yeah, I agree. Definitely. And
in my opinion.
The Ruin Blaster is a good way to get in there.
It's 4 mana, you get that kicker, right? That's what we're all about. Stuff we already want to do, but with kicker.
Great.
Okay, what do we got next? Vines of Vastwood. This is a fave, too. It's a single green. Target creature can't be the target of spells or abilities your opponents control this turn. So it's a green for a little bit of hexproof. I don't know why they didn't word it as hexproof.
It's not even Oracle to be hexproof. That's weird.
Can't be the target of spells or abilities your opponents control this turn. If the spell was kicked, that creature gets +4/+4 until end of turn, and it kicks for a single green. So this is among the cheapest kicker cards we can find. It costs 2 total with a kick trigger, and we get giving your commander hexproof is legitimate. A lot of times people are going to want to try to destroy it and things like that. This is something that we will definitely want to do. And +4/+4, our commander has trample. There is a world where we Voltron kill people just by attacking. So giving it +4/+4 in addition is a useful ability.
Right on. Yeah, Vines of Vastwood, modern staple.
Yeah, right?
Modern infect staple.
Of course. So So that's just a little overview of some kicker cards that I put in here that are subpar to their non-kicker alternatives, but the value that we gain is key. And I want to kind of get your brains remembering the ones that were on the cheaper side too.
Right.
That's important.
Yeah, that's important. Your Vines of Vastwood, your Primal Growth.
Yeah, your overloads.
Yeah. Right.
Grow from the ashes, right? Like that's a nice chain.
Yeah, grow from the ashes into another one. That's huge.
Grow from the ashes, get 2 forests, cast Vines of Vastwood kicked. You're done.
You're done. But we need to get a couple counters on Hallar first, ideally, right?
Yeah, that's how we're gonna like. I'll cast my ramp spells to get a trigger off Hallar, but mainly I want to do other ways to give Hallar +1/+1 counters. So I'm gonna start with increasing savagery, 2 green for a sorcery. Put 5 +1/+1 counters on target creature. Boom. That's a very good deal for 5 cards. It is a sorcery, but it also has flashback 5 green. So that's a total of 7. If increasing savagery was cast from a graveyard, put 10 +1/+1 counters on that creature instead. So cost us 7. So if we have like another couple of mana in our mana pool, we can probably flash this back and cast another cheap kicker spell to do at minimum 11 damage to each opponent.
Wow, that's pretty bonkers.
Yeah, that's if we have not kicked Hallar or done any other counter shenanigans yet.
And just to be clear, Hallar only hits for the damage. The damage that it hits for is equal to the number of counters on it, not its power, right?
That's right. Not just the power. It's not enough to use Vines of Vastwood to also pump its power. That would be awesome, but that is not the case.
That is not the case, right?
No.
Okay, increasing savagery, very cool. Basically, 2 little spells on one. One of them very big, actually. Next, we have Ring of Colonia. 2 mana for an artifact. It's an equipment. I remember this ring cycle.
Yeah, one of every color.
Yeah, one of every color. This one, they all like, if they were on the color of the color that they referred to, basically, because they're colorless because they're equipment. But if they're on the color,
there's no mana symbol in their text, so there's no color identity.
But technically, this one, I mean, not technically, you would consider this one to be the green one because it says equipped creature has trample, and then at the beginning of your upkeep, put a +1/+1 counter on equipped creature if it's green, and the equip cost is 1. So yeah, this is kind of how they all worked. The green one being one of the best ones for sure, because it gives trample and it incrementally makes your creature bigger.
Yeah, they all incrementally make your creature bigger.
Yes.
At the beginning of your upkeep. The red one gives your creature haste. But I didn't put both in the deck, but the reason I went with the green one, Hallar already has trample, so it really just adds +1/+1 counters every upkeep to Hallar. That's kind of all it does on Hallar. But the reason I included it over the red one is because haste on Hallar isn't useful. Haste, that's what the red one gives. Most of our creatures are also green. Like the red is like less prominent than green in this deck. Red is more of your instants and sorceries, where most of your creatures are green. Therefore, the red one won't do much if Hallar is not out. Like, say, I made the trade. The red one's better for Hallar specifically because it doesn't do redundant trample, but it's useless on many other creatures.
Right. So this one has utility when the other creatures are the ones you have out there, and because there are going to be times when, unfortunately, you can't have your commander out.
Well, and as we've discovered, right, increasing savagery, we might need to put a ton of counters on a regular creature and give it trample.
Exactly. Great. Okay. Yeah,
okay,
I love the ring cycle. It's definitely like a lower powered version of some other things, but like it's you know what I mean. Like it's not some broken mechanic, but they're all kind of like, oh, neat.
The blue one is very interesting. I didn't put it in the tabs, but the blue one lets you pay for hexproof.
Yeah.
So it's interesting because if you hold up mana, your commander sort of has hexproof. But since I would love that, we love hexproof on Hallar on this kind of deck, but it's just the fact of the matter is that's too much to hold up, and it doesn't give +1 counters. It's not utility enough in this.
The other ones aren't like. The white one gives vigilance, I think, and the black one you can pay to regenerate. I think it's like pay 1 and you can regenerate.
Yeah, that's right.
That one's
very
good
powerful.
Too. Yeah, that one's all right too, especially for certain commanders like Karlov and stuff. But anyways.
Okay, Moving on, this is a classic when you're dealing with plus on counters. Forgotten Ancient.
Oh, yeah.
3 and a green, elemental, 0/3. But whenever any player casts a spell, you put a plus on counter on this little elemental. And at the beginning of your upkeep, you may move any number of those counters from Forgotten Ancient onto any other creatures. So we're probably going to dump all of them onto Hallar, which, you know, we've seen Forgotten Ancients start dumping a ton of counters. So like Hallar will get very big with this.
Oh yeah, Forgotten Ancient. That's a staple in plus one counter decks.
Stapes.
And finally in this category we have Retreat to Kazandu. 2 and a green for an enchantment with landfall. So whenever a land enters the battlefield, you choose one. Either put a plus one counter on target creature, or you gain 2 life.
Guess what we're gonna choose?
I bet you're gonna pick the counter.
It does. I mean, it's nice to have the life option if that was a thing. Like, we have that as an option if we desperately need it. But we're going to get Hallar. We're going to throw counters on them. So, as you can see, there's a lot of ways to get counters on Hallar. So, that is our strategy. Our strategy is more about putting counters on Hallar than just casting numerous kicker spells. It's 2 mana inefficient to build up the counters via kicker.
It's too bad Hallar doesn't have blue, because blue would be good.
Oh, for Simic?
I guess you could
Simic in there?
Yeah, then you could use that one really bad card from Gatewatch. Or,
Bioshift?
Bioshift, that's it.
Bioshift. Still looking for... Yeah, Bioshift, man. Bioshift is the number one... I mean, maybe that's just because that's when we really started playing, so like that's strong in our minds. But that's a card that the imagined ceiling of it is so high, but like the floor of that card is... As we know, just finding it on the ground and not knowing what magic is.
And not knowing what it is. Just being like, what is this guy? Why does he have crab hands? Why is he screaming? What has happened to him that he's in the forest, just his torso? I don't understand what happened.
I want to know that guy's story.
Right? He's got like a squid for a hand and like a crab. And like also a crab, what do you call that? Claw.
Yeah.
Anyways. Bioshift. Not using it in this deck. It's part blue. What are you doing? Are you looking up the art for Bioshift?
I am.
Yeah. It is being displayed for all of you watching on our YouTube channel.
Oh, nice. You got it. Yeah. Good. Anyway.
Okay, cool. That was it. Okay.
Yeah, to just put a cap on that category. Those are some of the ways we're going to just blast counters onto Hallar. That's what we got to do.
Yeah.
We got to get this counters big. Now I want to talk about, so we've already highlighted some cards that have kicker that are fairly cheap. I want to highlight some of the cheapest kicker cards in the deck. And I think they're all right anyway. Do you want to start, Andy?
Yeah, here is Everflowing Chalice. This is just a good card in general. It's a good commander card. 0 mana, right? For an artifact with multi-kicker 2. So you can pay an additional 2 any number of times as you cast a spell. And then Everflowing Chalice enters the battlefield with a charge counter on it for each time it was kicked. And then you can tap and add colorless mana for every charge counter on Everflowing Chalice. So usually you'll start this off on turn 2 with a 2. So a one charge counter, so that it taps for 1 extra. Or if you're lucky and you had your Soul Ring out before, maybe on turn 3 or whatever, you can kick this twice. And then it's its own little Soul Ring.
Do you know, because we run Mind Stone sometimes, right? Mm-hmm. Everyone loves Fellwar Stone because it's probably going to give you colors that you care about, because it cares about opponents' colors. Mind Stone, anything that costs 2 that can give back a mana color or colorless is an excellent card. That's a good place to have ramp. And Everflowing Chalice, I think, in my mind, is underrated. I don't see it enough. I don't run it enough because it is a Mind Stone. I mean, the drawback is you don't get to turn it into a card later, which Mind Stone can do. But this can be a bigger mana rock if you want to, if you can afford it, if you want it.
Yeah, and if you have anything that cares about doubling counters or anything like that, so Everflowing Chalice is really good for that.
And in this deck, this is a 2 mana trigger for Hallar if you want.
Yeah. Pretty sweet. And then it makes a mana. You get one of those manas back.
Yeah. Yeah, that's right. You can use it to spend on other kicker spells. I hadn't even thought of that one. That's great.
I got my manas back.
Stella got her mana back.
All right, what's next?
Now I want to talk about Goblin Bushwhacker. It's a 2 mana kicker spell. So for a single red, it's a 1/1 Goblin Warrior. Boring. But if you kick it for an additional red, when it enters battlefield, creatures you control get +1/+0 and haste until end of turn. This is not a go-wide deck. We're probably not going to do a lot of that, but there is a world where we might kick a creature and then kick a Goblin Bushwhacker to give everybody haste, just to squeeze a little bit more damage in through places.
It's pretty wild to see these really cheap kicker spells, just to know that, like, okay, well, it's like you're playing against this deck, and they cast Increasing Savagery, and they put, like, 10 counters on Hallar. You're like, oof, that's a big commander. Okay, well, we gotta be on the lookout for that now. And you're like, okay, and he comes back around to you, you untap, and then you cast Goblin Bushwhacker, Everflowing Chalice, Overload. You know what I mean? You just do these three, like, that's 30 damage, or 31, 32, 33 damage, I guess. But, man, that's wild. Or, sorry, 10, 11, 12. Like, it goes up like that.
Yeah.
Neat. Well, there's one more still here. Comet Storm.
Right.
It's an X red instant with multi-kicker 1. So you could make this be a 3-mana kicked spell at the least.
Yes.
You choose target creature or player, then choose another target creature or player for each time Comet Storm was kicked. Comet Storm deals X damage to each of them.
A useful removal spell. It's flexible. We can spend a lot of mana to kill a couple players, but at its worst, we can do 0 damage divided among 2 creatures and get a credit for a kick.
0 damage. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, you can. That's really funny. Certainly not the intention of this card when it was first made, I'm sure. But no. Yeah, this is this. Imagine going like a big you can even, but even on the other side of things, right? Like a big kicker for Comet Storm. Yeah. You do the last bit of damage to 2 people, and then Hallar also hits them. So like you can really work that out so that it's exactly what you need to like off the last 2 opponents. That's pretty sweet.
Like if Hallar's counters would be enough to finish off 2 opponents, but not the other 2, you could just do the math and be like, how far away is it? If I do a big Comet Storm, will that cover the difference?
Yeah, exactly.
Probably. And then if it still doesn't, maybe you're going to be able to attack with Hallar and just like trample over for the end of it.
That's right. That's the other thing, right? Like having that many counters on Hallar makes it like a real threat, just attacking wise as well.
Yep.
That big trampler.
Yeah. So I stole your category idea from last week, Andy. I want to talk about neat moves. Here's some neat moves.
Neat moves. This is a new segment on the show called Neat Moves.
I like it. Temur Sabertooth. 2 green for a 4/3 cat. 1 and a green. You may return another creature you control to its owner's hand. If you do, Temur Sabertooth gains indestructible until end of turn. We do have numerous cheap creatures with kicker, even the expensive ones with kicker. We can return at the end step and cast them again. Like if you got nothing better to do, I might return a Sentinel Wood Readers and then cast them again and draw another couple of cards.
Yeah, or that one that goblin that hits the lands.
Sure, Goblin Moonblaster, even just a Goblin Bushwhacker for a 2-mana kicker. It turns it into a 4-mana repeatable kicker spell.
This is definitely a neat move. Next, we have Grafted Exoskeleton. Ooh, 4 mana for the equipment, an artifact that says equipped creature gets +2/+2 and has infect. And whenever Grafted Exoskeleton becomes unattached from a permanent, sacrifice that permanent. And the equip cost is 2. This is an alternate win con here, kind of, right?
Sounds like a neat move to me.
It's a very neat move.
It's pretty neat. Right? Because like now we only need 9 counters on Hallar with the skeleton. The next kicker spell will add a counter and will do 10 infect damage to all opponents.
Oh wow! I wasn't even thinking of the damage that Hallar was doing. I was thinking like, then you can attack. Like you only need 5 counters on Hallar. But yeah, you're right. Like man. We get the counters on him, and wow, that's mean.
So and so now, if you can back up 2 kicker spells, you only need, I think, there needs to be 4 counters on Hallar. So the first kicker spell puts a 5th counter, does 5 infect. The next kicker puts a counter and does 6 infect. Wow. So if you can chain 2 kicker spells when you're at 4 counters on Hallar, that's a win right there.
And I'll tell you what, that is also a neat move. Finally, in neat moves, we have Strionic Resonator. 2 generic for the artifact that says pay 2 and tap it. Copy target triggered ability you control. You may choose new targets for the copy.
Yeah. Well, and since whenever is a triggered ability, that's Hallar for you. So
Exactly.
You can cast a kicker spell, tap an additional 2. So it's like double kicker, but you get double use out of it. This is a way to truly get extra kicker out of things.
Right. This is a way for you to get an extra neat move.
And then this will also get an extra counter on Hallar. The full trigger is putting on a counter and doing damage.
Right.
So you'll do all of that twice with Strionic Resonator. So you kind of get your 5 and your 6 together.
Oh, neat. Okay. Yeah, neat move. All right, great.
Neat move. It made you say neat.
It made me say neat.
That's the true criteria for the neat moves category.
Yeah.
If you're like, neat.
Neat.
I love it.
Yeah, I get laughed at when I say neat sometimes, but I'm like, I only say it if I truly mean it.
Oh yeah,
neat.
I say it a lot too.
Yeah. All right.
Great. Shall we move on to the 3 stars of the deck?
Yes, we shall.
Okay. I bet you're all thinking of it this whole time. Star number 3, Hardened Scales. Single green enchantment. If 1 or more +1/+1 encounters would be placed on a creature you control, that many +1 are placed on it instead. This is not doubling season. We do not double the counters, but most of the time we're putting counters on 1 at a time. Forgotten Ancient gets them 1 at a time. Hallar gets them 1 at a time. Most importantly, the Ring of Colonia gets them 1 at a time. When you're getting them 1 at a time, mostly, you are doubling them effectively.
Mm-hmm. Also, of course, recently released, Pier, that little boy from Battle Bond.
Little Pier would be in here, but because Battle Bond, like when I brewed it up, Battle Bond is just being released,
Mm-hmm.
so it wasn't available, but Pier for sure goes in this deck.
Okay, cool. Star number 2, we've already talked about it a little bit, but it's pretty obvious why it would be here. Forgotten Ancient. Just being able to dump all those counters because your opponents and yourself played spells is very, very strong, right?
Yeah.
So whenever a player casts a spell, this guy gets a counter, and then you can dump him. At the beginning of your
feel
turn.
like why don't you do the first star, because Forgotten Ancient was a repeat.
Okay. All right. The number 1 star is Solidarity of Heroes. This junker of a card from what was this from?
Journey to Nyx.
Journey into Nyx, a junker of a set, is very strong, though. It's 1 and a green for an instant that says, it has Strive, that classic mechanic we all remember. So it costs 1 and a green more to cast for each target beyond the first, so you can actually hit more than 1 target with this. However, you're probably just going to be sticking this on the one on Hallar, and it's choose any number of target creatures, double the number of +1/+1 counters on each of them. So you basically are just doubling up the number of counters on Hallar.
Yeah, and then going buck wild.
And then casting. And it's only 2 mana. So this is like very, very strong. Even if you just get like 3 or 4 counters on Hallar, just being able to double those, now it's 6 or 8. All of a sudden you're talking about kill range for a couple of counter spells, right? Yeah.
And it is instant, so you can do it at your opponent's end step, at the last end step, so that you have your full mana accessibility to do your shenanigans on a doubled Hallar. I also want to point out the time you would strive this is on your opponent's end step if you have Forgotten Ancient and Hallar, because you double all those counters, and then you put all of Forgotten Ancients on Hallar, which is essentially doubling Hallar twice.
Yeah, cool.
Very cool.
Yeah, that's also a neat move. No question about it. I can see why he put it as number 1 star.
Oh, you know what, though? Now that I'm thinking about it, no, it's not the same. Never mind.
What?
I was going to think Scrounging Bandar, but I think Scrounging Bandar is like way worse than Forgotten Ancient. It's too much worse to put in here.
Scrounging Bandar.
It's a card that lets you move 1/1 counters over. It's from Kaladesh. 1 and a green for a 0/0 that enters with 2 counters, so it answers as a 2/2. And at the beginning of your upkeep, you can move any number of counters from this to any target creature. It's kind of like a mini Forgotten Ancient, but it doesn't grow.
Yeah, it doesn't grow. You need something to proliferate or something like that to take advantage of the counters that are already on it. Yeah, as it enters.
Yep. Yeah, Solidarity of Heroes, star number 1 for sure.
Cat monkey. Okay, cool. Great, yeah. And were there any surprises, any discoveries, perhaps?
There was. It's not. I mean, I know we've dealt with this card before, but I'll put a card in the surprise category if it has left my conscious brain. Right. I had forgotten this card existed for a while. It's Alpha Authority. I was looking for a way to give Hallar hexproof. So 1 and a green, enchanted creature has hexproof and can't be blocked by more than 1 creature. I feel like the added bonus of not being able to be blocked by more than 1 creature, in addition to the primary hexproof, makes this card worth it. Because, as we know, Hallar is also sort of a Voltron-y commander. So to be able to attack in and be like, well, I mean, I have trample, and you get to either put your biggest thing in front to soak up some damage and still take and lose your biggest thing, or you can chump it and take the full damage anyway. Either way, that's not a great deal for your opponent.
Yeah, no, that's an underrated ability for sure, especially when you're dealing with things that have trample, right? Like that's where the real kicker comes in, like you're saying. So yeah, this card's real, man. Hexproof on an aura. If you look through, like, if you keyword for that and search for that, it's actually not very often will an aura grant a thing hexproof or shroud. There are some. There's very few. I think it's only like it's like less than 5, I'd say.
And I bet you most of them are blue.
And yeah, I think most of them are blue. Yeah, so it's really neat to find this one in green. Cool.
Yeah. There you have it. That's kind of the gist of the deck. That's kind of the overview of what I wanted to cover. It seems really fun. I did a couple of little tester games, and that solidarity. There comes a point where you really have to do your math, where you're like, okay, wait a minute. Okay, I have Solidarity of Heroes, so I can double the counters, but you have to cast a kicker spell. There's times where, like, do I pay the first kicker to increase the counters and then double it and then another kicker spell, or do I do it this way? Like, if you like toying with those sequencing things, this is fun for those of us who really love sequencing.
Oh, cool. Well, any of you out there studying sequencing
or just like in the magic way of just like the order you cast your spells makes a big difference.
That is fun, actually. That is one of the fun things about having a bunch of stuff to do. Whether it's Commander or whatever, like in Commander, that's one of the things that's fun about it. So that's really neat.
I like it.
Great. Before we get to the budget report, we have to talk about Wizard's Tower a little bit. For a second, wizardtower.com. You can go check it out and use our coupon code Summer of Brews this summer to get 5% off your orders of $15 or more.
Yeah, get that kickback.
Yeah. Of course, go to their website, wizardtower.com. Check out all the...
Battle Bond must be available now,
That's right. Battle Bond is definitely available. You can even pre-order... you can get the Commander Anthology that's out right now. Jace Signature Spellbook Jace. Have you seen this at all?
Jace's... No.
Yeah, it's like... I think it's like, 9 or 12 cards or something like that, where... with a new border and like just neat new art. It looks really cool, I gotta say. Not all of it's new art. Some of it is the older art, but yeah, it's stuff that features Jace.
Oh, neat.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. And you can also get that M19, whatever it's called. What is it? Yeah, Core Set 2019. You can pre-order that too. And then go to mtgcanada.com and check out our articles written by Sean and myself.
Yeah. It's interesting to me to think about Jace's spell book is all spells with him in it, where it's just like that's the equivalent of just thinking about yourself all the time.
Yeah, like in his mind, that's what he's thinking.
Just all of him is like, I'm gonna think about all my Jace spells.
Ooh, what spells am I on?
Very narcissistic.
Counter spell. Yeah. All right. Well, let's get to the budget report.
This is the part of the show where we look at all of the cards and we see how much of them cost and if it's worth kicking them to pay even more to our opponents.
You know what I like? For 150 episodes, we've done that beep, 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 without ever saying that we're going to do that. Like, even from the first episode, we just did that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Was that from the very first?
Oh, yeah. I believe so. I believe we did that
Wow.
right away and never ever said, like, okay, we're going to do this thing where it's like a news thing or like an old news, like breaking news thing.
Yeah.
We just always did it. It's so weird.
Neat.
Anyways, the budget report.
Budget report. Yeah, so this deck is cheap, everybody, because we use so many kicker spells. No, kicker is not regarded as an excellent mechanic in Commander. So most of the spells we care about are dirt cheap.
Mm-hmm.
Therefore, this whole deck came in at like $46. Very cheap. Sol Ring is actually the most expensive card in this deck, but I'm not going to talk about it because we don't talk about Sol Ring as a budget card. But it's like it's above $250 now. Every Commander set, right? I'll say this again. When a Commander Precon comes out, browse your favorite LGS. I'm going to suggest Wizard Tower. Look at the Sol Rings they have for singles, and if it ever drops under $2, just buy a handful of them.
Yeah.
You're going to use them.
Yep, you're going to use them. Well, I mean, if you're building decks at the same clip that we are, I guess.
Oh my god, yeah.
Well,
I would wager that, like, I think everybody's number of decks always goes up. Like, it might go down briefly, but that's only because you've taken some apart because you got more things. I think in the long run, like, some decks are like, this is fun, I'm never closing this deck down.
Yeah, that's true. So Sol Ring is most expensive, but the besides that, the most expensive card in the deck is Vandal Blast.
Vandal Blast. What's going on, everybody? Vandal Blast is now above $250.
What?
Yeah.
I mean, it makes sense. It's a very good card.
Yeah, right? I mean, it's no surprise. No surprise it came around, but like, man, that's too much for Vandal Blast. Vandal Blast was always like 50 cents in my mind.
Yeah, right? Like, man, Overload for 4 and a red on Vandal Blast.
Yeah.
So 1 red for the sorcery that destroys an artifact, or, yeah, overload it and destroy each artifact you don't control.
That's just a staple, right? So, like, as we're seeing staples become expensive, it's a weird balance, right? Because we could say Wizards, like, hey, reprint staples more. Give us more Vandal Blast. But then, if that becomes too prevalent, then every deck becomes staples with 20 different cards. It's like, oh, are you red-green? I know I'm going to see Staple. I know I'm going to see Vandal Blast. I know I'm going to see this. I know I'm going to see Crows and Grip. I know I'm going to see this. So at a certain point, it's kind of like by building a red-green deck, here's the 30 cards you're going to use, and those all cost $1.50 each because they're all staples. And then you have creativity among the next few. Oh, it's weird.
Yeah, that is weird.
Anyway, second most expensive card, Hardened Scales. Definitely not a staple. Unless you're running plus encounters. We know why it's on the 3 stars of the deck. It's definitely worth keeping.
Very, very good card. Actually, that's... Oh, wait, that's not what you have in here. Oh, yeah, you do. Okay, never mind. And then the third one is Varric's Bladewing. 2 and 2 red for the 4/4 legendary dragon. With kicker 3, and he has flying, of course. And when Varric's enters the battlefield, if it was kicked, create Karok's Bladewing, a legendary 4/4 red dragon creature token with flying. So you get 2 of them, essentially.
Yeah, it costs you 7. It's an expensive kicker, but it's good. Like 2 4/4s in the air is useful in Commander. We're green, so we don't have a ton of flying defense. Like red and green are not strong against flyers. And I think this is $2 because it's a mythic from the current set. Oh, you know what? I think it just dropped to $1. Since I made this episode, it has dropped significantly. So, I bet you this budget report's $1 cheaper.
Wow, that's pretty sweet.
Yeah,
I guess in standard, it's only like that expensive because it's a mythic, I would say. And yeah, maybe
from the
some
current
people
set
are trying to do some stuff with it in standard, maybe. But like, I think as long as Glorybringer's around, I don't see Varric's Bladewing doing too much.
Probably not.
Although I guess Glorybringer is 5 mana?
Costs 5, and Glorybringer can't hit other dragons.
Oh, right. So actually, Varric's Bladewing is kind of an interesting answer to Glorybringer. That's fun.
I mean, it answers 2 Glorybringers if you've paid
if you
7.
kick it, yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Well, very fun. Good to know. Great. And okay, so that's the budget section. What about the outside of budget? What cards could we include in here?
I don't I don't really have a lot of out-of-budget stuff. Like, because this deck is already so cheap, the only cards I can think that we would add are out of budget because of their obvious power levels, right? Obviously, Doubling Season goes in this deck. I'm not going to talk about that.
Sure.
And then by the same, like, anything that does that effect is already out of budget. What's that? Oh boy. It's 1 and a green, give all your creatures indestructible and hexproof. Like, that's an instant that is getting pricey. I think it's Heroic Intervention.
Yeah, I think that is it.
Yeah, like that card it's like $8, right? It's a rare from Kaladesh and it's $8. So it's just very good. Like, green decks without white, you don't have access to this very easily. We want to protect Hallar, so this should go in the deck for sure.
Yeah, you're right. Without white, this is a tough thing to get in these colors. So yeah, Heroic Intervention would be strong.
Yeah,
and I guess that's why it's an $8 card.
Yeah, it's the cheapest of that. It's the cheapest card that does that. And it's instant.
I remember seeing this being like, oh, that's a pretty good commander card. And then I like, maybe I'll pick up a few.
Yeah.
Little did I know, $8. Forget it.
Do you think, is that running? I don't think it's running standard. Is that just like, I wonder why, like, what? Is it Commander that's keeping it that expensive? Like, every green deck retroactively just buys one?
I guess, yeah. I mean, I don't play Standard, but I, like, watch enough, like, when the Pro Tour's on and things like that, and I don't believe I've ever seen this card.
I mean, I don't watch Modern or anything. Is that maybe, like, is it an Infect card? I don't know.
Well, I mean, there's some stuff. I guess there are some cards there are some decks that use it in Standard. The Steel Leaf, Stompy deck apparently runs it, and like kind of like green white mid rangey type decks use it.
Sure.
Interesting. Okay. Well, I guess it is run a little bit in Standard. But and that on top of Commander, I'm sure is probably what's keeping it up there. All right.
Yeah.
Well, there you have it.
There you have it. That's Hallar, kicking it with Hallar. This has been Kicking It with Sean and Andy, kicking it with Hallar.
This has been Kicking It with Sean and Andy, kicking it with Hallar, the 150th episode, kicking it extra.
Oh man, 150. It does sneak up on you, I have to say. 150 came up quick. Looking forward to 200. We'll hopefully have something cool put together for 200.
Yeah.
I hope we start thinking about it prior to 194.
I saw last week. I was like, oh, episode 150. I was like, I guess we're not doing anything for it. It's just like, oh, well, what could we like? What are we gonna plan anyways? Like, I don't know. Let's just do a regular show. We'll be like the Simpsons and be like our 163rd episode spectacular.
Right.
Never really.
I do like what LR does, where all their 4-1s.
Yeah.
Like they're 2-for-1 episode and they're 3-for-1. They just have, I think they're 4 or 5-for-1. I forget.
They did 4-for-1. That was their latest one.
Yeah, and they had all the co-hosts, the 4 co-hosts come in. That was cool.
That was cool. Yeah, I enjoyed that episode. I listened a lot. I listened to that a lot when I was biking. Anyways. All right, great. Well, thanks for listening, everyone. That's the deck for this week.
That's the deck. And before we sign off, if you are going to GP Vegas, let us know via tweet. Andy and I will be there too. We'd love to come by and meet you somehow. So tweet at us. We'll tell you where we are, and hopefully we can meet you. That's right. And if you're watching this on YouTube, or if you are able to access YouTube, go to YouTube and become a subscriber. That would be a very big help to us, as well as if you haven't already, check out us on iTunes and give us a 5-star review. Those things are super helpful, and we don't push it enough as hosts of the show because we're 150 shows in, and we felt like, well, we said that a lot when we first started, so we don't need to say it anymore. But it's very, very important and really helps us out a lot. So if you want to give back a little bit, become a subscriber on YouTube and give us a review on iTunes. But otherwise, thanks very much for listening. We got a Brews News segment coming up. We'll see everyone next week. Bye.
Bye.
And that's how online marketing can work for you. Now, the trick is that you must remember, is getting them to pay in order to attack you. All right? Everyone, yes. Now, yes, next question. Please step up to the podium.
I have a question for you, Baird, Stewart of Argive. It is I, Odric, Lunarch Marshal.
Very well, then. I'm not familiar with you, but carry on. Your question?
You're not familiar at all, then, with me?
No, my dear boy, I'm not.
Have you ever been to Innistrad Plain, Baird?
I've been many places. I don't remember them all.
Well, do you remember a woman who works in the forests of Innistrad? Her last name was something about a marshal, maybe? Looked a little bit like me, a little bit about my height, sort of.
I've seen a movie called Forgetting Sarah Marshall, and I assure you, my dear boy, I've forgotten all other marshals.
Well, Baird, I took a sample of your hair, ran it through a DNA test, and I have the results of a paternity test here linking you and me. Why don't you just read that and tell me what it says? Just read it.
This is most unexpected. In the question of whether or not Baird, Steward of Argive, is the father of Odric Lunarch Marshall, it turns out that I am the father.
Oh!
No, I demand a recount.
Snap!
I demand another test.
Well, Baird, it turns out you are my father. I never knew my father, and I just came to Dominaria. I didn't bring Odric Master Tactician with me, but I was just wondering if you wanted to play catch.
This looks terribly unofficial, old man.
No, it's written in quill ink.
It is written.
Yes, handwritten.
By
me.
Well, I've never had a son before. I don't know how to act. I don't know what to do. What should we do? What do fathers and sons do?
Well, I don't know. I've never had a father. I've spent my whole life trying to fight against werewolves and vampires and demons.
I also never knew my father.
My grandfather. Well, at least we have that in common.
Werewolves and demons, you say?
Yes, I fight them all the time.
Well, I suppose we could, make a family band?
Yes.
Banding?
Banding. We could bring back banding. Perhaps that's one of the other skills I could grant the whole team.
If I could have banding, old boy, you could have banding.
Yes,
then you could give it to everyone.
And you could protect us from people attacking me, and don't let them hurt us, Daddy.
And, well, we could also work on the terminology, of course.
Of course, banding is an archaic term that Dominaria invented, but I'm sure Wizard would like to eliminate it. We just need to find another way to give priority to the attackers.
Ha ha, yes. Yes.
Aha, yes. Yes. Yes.
Yes.
Haha, yes.
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 There's no H.
But
Yes.
I know. Y-E-S.
Yes.
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 I wish my brother would.
We will need to teach you how to speak.
Well, that's fine. I'm happy to do all of that, as well as eat pizza.
Did you say you had a brother?
Yes.
I have another son.
Yes, Audrey. I mean, this is confusing. How the both of us exist. I'm not sure if it's a dimensional thing or if it's maybe clones or twins. It's not entirely clear.
What are you getting at, son?
There's another Audric.
Another. Well, all right. I suppose we'll band out of here. Together. Father and son, as far as I know.
Yes, and I shall acquire a ball and a glove, and we shall throw it back and forth, each catching it, taking one step further back, until we are so far apart we can barely see each other.
The kit's in the cradle and the silver spoon.
Little boy versus the man on the moon.
If you're going home, son, I don't know when. We'll get together again.
I know it
and have a
is good time. Is there onions here? Is someone cutting onions?
Someone's making hot pineapple soup
Oh, delicious.
with onions. What
Well-
an amazing reunion.
Yeah, I hope
Sort
it
of.
works out.
Yeah. I mean, who knows? Who knows? Maybe they'll go on and play catch after this.
A mystery yet to be solved.
Well, we're tapped out. We'll pass the turn over to everyone else. That's you. Good night.
Good night. If you want to contact us, I'm at Sean Tabaris.
And I'm at Andy Holbone.
Send us an email at commandersbrew@gmail.com.
You can find out when we go live on Twitch if you follow us at twitch.tv.
And if you care to support us on Patreon, check us out at patreon.com.
And you can find our deck list on tappedout.net.
And if we forgot anything, commandersbrew.com.